Pops and the Rican.
Pops and the Rican.
Look at this. Pops and the Rican. The Pops and the Rican. What's the Pops and the Rican? Look at the top of his head. Look at this. Pops and the Rican.
Pops and the Rican.
What's going on, everybody?
Whoa. Hey, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I think I'm Pops.
And I'm the Rican.
And that makes this, the Pops and the Rican show. Yeah.
What's up,
So-
man? How you feeling, man? You doing good?
Hey, I tell you, we had another fantastic weekend here at Gutty's Comedy Club. I mean, it really was quite amazing. The improv show that we had this weekend was just so much fun.
Yeah, man.
And it's to see the squad really gel together and to see stuff happen. I mean, I'm having a blast with those guys, and to see that they're really wanting to do something on a regular basis, and the improv aesthetics is just taking off. And so it's a great weekend, and then I'm looking at the calendar that's coming up, and man, we got a fantastic lineup coming up.
Yep.
Well, this next weekend. No, I'm just kidding. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yes, sir. This is gonna be good.
But yeah, I mean, we've got some great shows coming up, and it's going to be just if we can get this world to stop spreading their germs and wash their hands, and I think if we can get back to life as it should be, man, this place will be just cranking, and it'd be so much fun that the world would just they'd be rushing to Greenwood just because they want to come to a Gutty show.
I agree, man. I'm excited about what we got going on. It's always great to see just all the new comics that are connected with us, and then also these comics that we're bringing, all these headliners that we're bringing into Gutty's. I'm excited about seeing how this is starting to develop into something that we just pretty much came together, and the vision of what's happening is dope, bro. Just like this past weekend, just watching the improv team just destroy the stage and have fun, and then being able to even just like Jeff Jenna came in and did like a special guest spot, and it's like being able to have that available. And you never know when you're at Gutty, you'll never know who you're gonna see. And this next comic that's coming up this weekend, man, I'm telling you, they probably know them all over the world. That's not. I'm not even.
Yeah.
They know.
Well, let's be honest. Let's be honest,
bro.
We have spared every possible expense to get this guy in.
I'm just saying, bro, it has been nothing but a pleasure to work with this comedian, because it's just seeing the different skills that this guy has and how he brings it to every single time he gets on the stage. It's never a dull moment. So I'm excited to have him on the show and at Gutty's Comedy Club as well. But I'm telling you, man, the lineups that we got, it's just been nothing but just exciting to see, because it's just great to see everyone that has been coming through has said nothing but great things about what we're doing, and we just keep stacking them, man. And I'm stoked about it. So if you have yet to get your tickets, go online right now, because there's limited seating. Go online right now, and I guarantee you these shows this weekend is going to be bananas. So you don't want to miss this one. And I know we say that a lot, but I'm serious every time we say it, because these guys that come with it, they always bring the great stuff. It's just always a great, so you don't want to miss it. So there's a couple ways to do this. One, you can download our mobile app. Our mobile app is ready to go. Download the mobile app. You can get your tickets directly from there. And if you're out of state, let's say you're in the Dominican Republic, and you're like, hey, I know Ridgeway. You can watch him live. Just download the mobile app. You can watch live broadcast. You're going to be able to catch his show online too as well. We got it set now where everybody can watch all of our shows online, broadcast once a night or every Friday, Saturday night. You can see it live and get a chance to check out what we're doing here at Gutty's Comedy Club. And it is exciting. I love it. And I'm excited about what's going to be happening here. So that's one way to do it. And or you can go online, jump online, get everybody. Look, if you want to get your whole family together, get your family together, sit in the living room, go online to guttyscomedyclub.com/live, and you can watch his comedy special direct to as well, and be one of the many people that are going to be blessed with his skills. So that being said, we got everything set here at the club too as well for this weekend. So if you want, you bring your mask. We got masks as well. If you want to buy some masks, we can do that. We'll take care of you too as well. Everything's social distance. And also we do our best to make sure that we're under the CDC guidelines and all that good stuff too as well. So we're limited seating, but you can definitely catch us too as well. So there's no excuse. You got to make it a Gutty night. Go online. Make sure you download the app. Check us out online. And I can't wait for you to meet. If you haven't yet, because I'm telling you this mug is known all over. If you haven't yet, make sure that you jump online and check out our next guest here on the Pops and Rican show. You got anything to say before we introduce next?
Just that I'm scared. I'm scared not to laugh at him, just because he would sit on me and crush me like a bug. So I'm laughing. I'm gonna laugh. Trust me. I'm scared not to. That's all I'm saying.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching right now, join us here on the Pops and Rican show. We want to welcome the very funny, the very talented, the amazing Hoss Ridgeway.
What's up?
He's here.
He's here.
I was gonna say,
What's going on, my
I
friend?
didn't know who you guys were talking about before, but I'm glad to be on the show.
Yeah, bro. How you feeling? You
I'm feeling good, man. Can't wait till we break off a piece of that Kit Kat bar this weekend. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be fun, man. No doubt about it. Always a pleasure to have you on that stage, bro. I appreciate your gift and your talent that you bring to Gutty's. I'm telling you, the quality that you bring and the talent is pretty much the best that we've seen, and we appreciate what you do and what you do for the club. So, whoo! First things first, let's go ahead and talk about who is Hoss Ridgeway. If you don't already know, who is Hoss Ridgeway, man? Tell me a little bit about how you got into the game and why comedy is what it is in your life.
Man, I grew up preacher's kid like you, and I forgot that, Pops, if you're – I know you guys were in ministry in different ways, so all three of us grew up around ministry.
PK.
Really awesome.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, I loved comedians, but probably the first record, and I wish I could remember the guy's name that did it, and the record was called Phone Call from God. And my dad had it in his cabinet where all the records were, and that's when I fell in love with comedy. I put on this record, and it was a one-sided conversation where the guy had answered the phone, and he had this long conversation with God on the other line, and like this, it was just, I remember big old headphones and with the little, curly cue, they're listening back in the like 1980, 81, just sitting there listening to almost every day after school. I'm like, I get home, put that on, or I'll put on Bill Cosby's Noah, or that kind of stuff. And I would just listen to it. And then, and so became a student of comedy, just loved it. My brothers and I, all of us loved it. We would repeat everything at dinner. It was never a dull moment with my three brothers and I at dinner table. There was one thing about our family is we had dinner at the table every night. It was just a rule. And our friends could come, but we couldn't go to a friend's house, but they could come to our house and have dinner. And we had a big table, and it was just a show every night. I wish we'd filmed it, because that was before everybody had filming ability.
That's right, dude.
And
was that Jerry Jordan's phone call from God?
That is the guy.
Yeah,
I'm glad
nice.
because I need to look that up. I mean, that guy, he just transformed me to because then you start watching like Bob Newhart show with my dad at night, and he was brilliant, and those guys all impacted me. And then we started watching, the Carol Burnett show and reruns of the Dean Martin show, so you could see the guy right over your shoulder, Steve, on the other shoulder. There you go, him, and so Jonathan Winters and all that. just those guys all made me want to do that. And then I just had a lot of, internal struggles and didn't believe in myself for a really long time. And so where it all really started is I started getting invited to like different kind of corporate things, like a group of chiropractors in 1997 asked me to come and do comedy. And I looked at my wife and I was like, what do I say? What do I do?
Yeah.
And I got up and was just goofy and did impressions and silly songs. And I got my first paycheck. And my wife and I were talking about the other night. It was more than I made in a week as a minister. And it was my first show. I mean, I was like, I'm looking at this check for $500 in 97. And I'm going, I think they put too many zeros on here.
I was like, $5. I know, I got you, man.
Exactly. And so I did some drama with another guy my size. We called ourselves really creative, two big guys. And so we did like skit comedy and all throughout the late 90s, early 2000s. And then in the early, about 2003 or 4, I was in Nashville with friends of mine at Ruby Tuesdays. And I'll never forget this. And we're this long table and I'm doing all this improv stuff, just like whatever anybody says, I'm acting on it and I'm making everybody laugh. And there's 3 Jasons sitting there and 2 of them were youth minister friends. And they said, we're putting you on stage tonight. We're going to go to the MC. And we're at this conference with like 500 youth ministers. And I'm like, there's no way. They don't even know who I am. And so I'm sitting there in the audience and they'd gotten with the MC, who is now a good friend of mine. And he said, Haas is a comedian. You need to let him do 10 minutes and just get everything fired up. And that's what they did. They introduced me while I'm sitting there. I looked at those guys. I'm like, what are you doing? And they said, just go. And
just do you. Right.
Yeah. And I remember those 3 steps thinking to myself, it's now or never.
That's good.
And I went up and I did 10 minutes of Chris Farley. What if he was your preacher? and had them all rolling. And then there was a potter's wheel on the stage because that's what the whole conference was about, being molded. And so they asked me to be on the potter's wheel while the guy was talking about it. And I'm like, they were banking on me not being able to do anything, and
right.
They didn't know my wife owned a pottery shop. And so I had been on a wheel before. And halfway through, I'm building this giant wheel, this beautiful vase. And I thought to myself, this is probably not what they wanted me to do. So I let my little pinky go in there and mess it up, and it went. And they were like, "See, he's not a master." And I was like, "Oh well, you don't have a clue." It's like I played along. And but when I walked down off the stage, I just I had to walk outside because I was just like so full of emotion and shaking and just juiced. And when I walked in the foyer of that big convention hall, I was surrounded by youth ministers who were starting to invite me to all of their retreats and their youth rallies all over the country. And I'm like, they're like, how much do you charge? And I was like, I have no idea, So,
Not enough.
Right. And at first it was like, I don't know, just fly me out there and whatever you give me is fine. And my first one was I flew from Florida to Colorado, and we went to 9,700 feet to do comedy. Let me tell you something.
Bro.
That's only 300 feet away from being able to use approved electronics on an airplane. And I'm sitting there, I can't breathe, which really lended itself to a few of my bits that I have developed over the years. And I didn't get paid much, but I had a blast. And I'm like, I want to do this, but I still wanted to do ministry. So and then from there, it was just that guy started calling his friends, and he later became my manager, kind of like booking agent, and booking all these shows. And I've been in front of as many as, 10,000 people since then.
Man,
and
that's awesome.
Out of nowhere in 27 or 28 states.
I think the amazing part about that is the fact that you just decided, all right, it's now or never.
Yeah. And
a lot of the stuff that a lot of people that we deal with here at Gutty's too as well, a lot of the comics, and I'm sure too as well, there's a lot of them that are starting the game. They're starting in, they're jumping in, and it's scary. It's a scary place to be able to I'm going to jump all in and go for it. And to hear that, I'm hoping that this will at least encourage them and let them know, hey, just keep pushing. Even if it's scary or if it looks like something that not everybody's supporting you, definitely will get that support here at Gutty's. And so it's good to hear that you took that step. But of course, in that process, before you got to that 10,000, how did you develop your, I don't know, I guess like more of your style? Because I know that you can do some crazy impressions. And so from that, how were you able to develop at least your voice and how you speak and what you find that's funny, and then come up with your routine on that?
Well, first of all, like I would not book me in 2004, that comedian, because there was, definitely some what I guess what Dennis, you like to call pedestrian stuff. I even had a knock knock joke song, and it was just knock knock jokes that I put together in a certain order that made them funny. You know what I mean? It was just maybe it'll work again. I don't know, but I did a lot of silly things, and but developing my voice, most guys go into like our open mic nights, and some of them they go like 5 or 6 or 7 of them in a week, and you're just like, wow, they're just really working their material. And I never did any of that. But what I did have is my own audience, which was my youth ministry. At that time, I had 75 students that I taught 3 times a week.
And that's an audience.
Yeah. And so I started just making up stuff on the fly. And if it really worked, I would just go and I would write it in those notes, and I'm a kinetic learner. So as soon as I wrote it down, I didn't have to look again. It was like there, But I just remember that a couple of years in of that, the kids would be like, "Are you trying a new bit on us?" And I'm like, "Why, yes, I am." So, and
the beauty of I want to go back just to make this quick point.
Yeah.
The beauty of your start, like you said, you took the knock knock jokes and turned it into a song. You took something that could be very pedestrian, the knock knock jokes that other people have heard over and over again. Any parent of a 5 or 6 year old heard all of them, but then you took that and you made it into something different, and by turning it into a song and twisting it so that it fit better together all around, you turned it into a bit that nobody else was doing, and so it no longer was pedestrian.
Right.
And I want to make sure and say that, because there are times when you can take something that is pretty common and turn it into something uncommon, and it becomes a very strong piece of comedy for you. So,
and it did work. I mean, because the way I did it was I would do they have the knock knock, who's their owl, and you say, or cow, and they say cow who, and you go, no, cows go moo, and then you do go owl, and then owls go what, and they say who, and I said, now you're getting it, so it was like a little bit of a set them up in the order, just. And I was so new at it, and I was so afraid of doing someone else's stuff because, like I said, I was a student of comedy. I had practiced everybody else's bits one-on-one with everybody else around me, trying to make them. I heard this comedian say this the other day, and I would nail it verbatim, And so I had this fear that I was going to go and do somebody else's stuff, So I don't ever want to do that.
Well, that's the thing. Is anything pretty much has been covered under the sun. I mean, seriously. I mean, in one way or another, there's going to be some kind of connection, and we've all experienced this once, where you're at a show and you're like, oh, I got a bit like that, or I know somebody who has a bit like that, and it sounds like, but it's not like you're taking, verbatim what you're stealing from them. It's just another perspective that everybody has a certain point of view on, but it's when you take your specific personal life, like your personal upbringing, and then take that perspective in, then it becomes a normal thing, because you're not just like making it up. Like, I'm from Chicago. I'm not saying I'm from Oklahoma, because that wouldn't work.
Right.
So it's like I could say I lived in Oklahoma, but with a perspective of someone that was from Chicago. So it's like you can hit certain topics that has already been used, but if you take that little twist of who you are and your perspective and your style, you really can't go wrong. Because, to be honest with you, like a lot of stuff that I've heard like Brian Regan do, everybody's done, but he's got like a way about it that he takes the jokes and everything that has been like torn off that topic, he finds something else to do. And it's just because he's taking that in his perspective. And so I wouldn't say he's copying everybody else. It's just he's got a way of saying it in a different angle.
He steals all of his material from Ridgeway.
From House. There you go. I was saying.
That's it.
Better
That's-
watch it.
Right.
Go check out the show. You'll go miss
I wish that was true. I wouldn't even want any money. I just wanted somebody to be like, yeah, that came from him. I just want that, and I'd be
Got
happy.
the props.
You
Yeah, I
know?
got you,
Be
man.
like,
Right.
then I can make my money later.
Right.
Well, finding my voice really came from, speaking at youth rallies and doing like, spiritual talk, but knowing that there's teenagers and knowing the only way to get their attention is to either, pull at their heartstrings. And I felt like I wasn't as good at that as some other people were. They tell a sad story and everybody cries. And I'm like, I don't really want to be that guy.
Yeah.
So I would try to find the humor in everything, And I would just pull it out of a passage. Like one time I was preaching on Barak when he went down to, and Sisera ran away and he ran into a tent. This is from Judges. And then this lady takes a tent peg and pushes it through his temple into the ground. And I read the next 3 words in my head. It said, and then he died. And I was like, these are the most useless words in the Bible, because if you get a tent peg through your temple into the ground, you gone, And I was like,
of course.
and then I started to make people laugh. I'm like, okay, that's how you find humor.
Yeah.
And I found my voice on stage with, teaching. So
It'd be much more effective if she ran it through his temple and he said, "Oh, that might cause a little bit of a migraine. I should get some medicine for that."
There it is. There it is. You're right. And I think, okay, so then talk a little bit about your background, because obviously you have been in the game, but you mainly did a lot of like shows for, different churches and stuff. So how was the transition of being a speaker? So I know you're senior pastor minister at Turning Point Church in Franklin, Indiana. So shout out to Turning Point Church. But how is it? Is that something that you can definitely being able to teach and preach, right? And your delivery. Now, I grew up and I would watch my father. My father was the same way, where in his sermons, he was up there and he would go in, but there are different moments where he'll just set up and punch and make everybody laugh. And then I was like, well, I want to know what that is. I don't care about the important stuff. I want to know what that
right.
I want to know what that laughter is. What is that? How did you put that? Now, my dad was never one to be like, I'm a stand-up comedian. He never did anything. He was just funny. And so he used his humor. So what my thing is, did you learn how to set up punch by preaching and teaching, or being able to be a speaker on stage? Or was it you were able to use the preaching and teaching as stage presence and learn how to control the stage? Because that's another thing you got to learn.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like a chicken and the egg question. I don't know really which one came first, but yes, both of those things I learned in being in front of people, because I didn't know that there was such a thing as the rule of thirds. It's in pictures and paintings and comedy, and I didn't understand misdirection. I didn't know what that was. I couldn't label it, but I knew when I did those things, everybody laughed, And what happened to me was right before that time at the conference, I had just been to a youth rally and watched Bone Hampton, and he was in a crowd of 2,000 kids. And he some of his stuff was really hitting, and then some of it was not, but he was, he still got a standing ovation. He did great, right? But I went to his booth and I was like, how do I do what you do? And he said, you just do it. And he's like, what do you mean you just do it? And that really translated into those 3 steps, going, well, Bone said, just do it. So I'm like, now or never.
Yeah.
And then the following year they had Mike Williams, Dr. Comedy, at the same event. And I told him that I had just done my first show and I went to Colorado. And then he's like, meet me for breakfast tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. And that night he wrote some bits for me. I didn't use those bits, but they were good stuff. I didn't use them because I lost the paper. Anyway, but the point is that he met with me and he said, you got it. You got to do this. This is, this is good. And then I it's so crazy how God put these different people in my life to teach me. Like Bob Smiley heard my earliest stuff, like my second time ever doing comedy. And then he's just like, where do you live? And I told him Texas. And he's like, I live in Texas too. And we got together and he looked at my stuff and he said, you need to add this, you need to do that. He's the one that taught me the threes. You know, when you get them laughing with one, you got a chance to throw two other lines in. And he's like, you take them down 2nd Street and then show up on 3rd Street. They don't even know how they got there. He's just, you know, he tells me these things. And so I had people who saw that I could be funny teach me the little tricks and like callbacks. He's like, why didn't you make a callback? And I was like, you know, I see that in every comedy show and I wasn't doing it, you know, and because you don't call back in a sermon, you know, you don't call back in a class.
Right.
And you could, but I didn't.
Right.
And so I learned the art of callback and I only have a few of them. And now what I'm doing to my craft is trying to find, you know, the ultimate callback to give my audience at the end of the show. You know, a lot of times I end just really strong with a song or something and then just walk off and I'm like, you know, those are good, but I need that strong, you know, those are the things I'm trying to tweak at this point in my life.
Nice.
So let me ask you this. You talk about, you know, these guys that have given you a little bit of inspiration, maybe a little nudge here and there. What's the best piece of advice that you have gotten from someone when it comes to your comedy career?
Well, a couple of things that I got from Bob Smiley. He's like, all right, you're doing shows. What's your merch? And I was like, what's merch? Because I didn't know it was short for merchandise, you know. And he said, you know how much money you're leaving at the door when you don't have shirts or a DVD or whatever? Right. And I was like, I don't know. And then he told me, and I was like, it's time to get a shirt, you know, and it's time to get a DVD. And so Jake Rubel just said Feffy. I think that's hilarious. Anyway, that's one of my bits. But what happened was right after he told me that, I was in York, Nebraska at York College. And there was this kid, I say kid, he was early 20s and I was 10 years older than him, but he was filming everything. And I just went up to him and I said, man, I'd really like to get the video of my show and I want to use that. And he said, oh man, I'll make you a DVD. And he made like this cool intro and it looked like 20th Century Fox, except it had my name on it, you know, and it had music and had my show in there. And then like some outtakes. He made that for me for no cost. Like that was my first DVD. I sent it to my friend and I got a bunch of them made and it said live at York College. And I sold a bunch of those. That's cool. And then, so that was one of the big things was like the merchandise part. And the other part was when I met Taylor Mason and I opened for him in Searcy, Arkansas, backstage, he said, you need to go to a club. And I was like, oh man, I'm not doing clubs. I'm just doing churches. This is awesome. This is my bread and butter. He said, if you go to a club, you'll know how much time you really have.
Hey, there it is.
And that, you know, my first club experience was in Houston at a place called Laugh in the Woods, and it's already closed, but they were just trying to launch, and I was a part of a few shows with Bob Smiley there. And he was right, man. It was a totally different show. You know, at a church, I can get this spiritual message at the end, and that's like 10 minutes, and I can have a whole, and I'm like, how much time do I really have? And what really works in a club doesn't necessarily work at a church and vice versa. And so Gutty's has been important to me that now I feel like I could go to any club and do a solid 10 minutes or a 20-minute set and know what it takes in a club. You know, word economy is more important in a club than it is at a church.
And the churches will be very kind and forgiving, and their expectation isn't, hey, you better make me laugh pretty consistently. Because they're there for the church, for the service or whatever. Even when you're doing comedy in a church, they tend to be a little bit more forgiving.
Yeah.
Now, the downside of doing comedy, from my perspective, doing comedy for a church is more church people want to be real respectful and listening in to everything you know, they want to be very kind and hear everything you say so they don't laugh quite as hard. Because if they spend too much time laughing, they might miss something important. So they cut their laugh short. It's
what's next? Yeah, exactly.
And so when you have those polite crowds like that,
right,
you kind of want to go, stop being so polite. Feel free to laugh over everything I say. In fact, feel free to laugh even when I haven't said anything, you know. but yeah. So when you're doing stuff in a church, they're a lot more forgiving.
Right.
When you go into the club and they're like, "Hey, you're not really doing it for me," they're going to let you know. They're gonna communicate whether they're heckling or whether they're booing or whatever. They're going to let you know, you know. And so I think, quite honestly, for some comics that do just churches, I think the best thing for them to have happen would be for somebody in the church to stand up and just boo and heckle them. Although then you might get heckled on Sunday morning for your sermon. I don't know.
Right.
Repent, you know? Yeah.
Exactly. And I think with the way we set it up here is, to be honest with you, yes, you can. You have the ability to be able to go to other comedy clubs, be able to, work that 10, 15 minutes, even feature, or even headline too as well. The only thing is you do have that that element of different clubs have different options, like, for example, drink options and things like that. And so you're going to have crowds that, are just really rough and rugged and just, very belligerent, or just pretty much like want to do what they want to do. And then you have other places that, are very cordial. I mean, you're going to learn the different temperatures and different attitudes and what's on stage. And in that area, like we learned from some of the comics that have been on here, get out of your state. Get out of your state and where you're working with, and go to another state and see if your material will travel. And if it travels, then great. If not, then you got some things to work with. So it's like that with Gutty's, the fact that we don't have that element of, and we chose it on purpose to do that, is to take away that element where people are be a little bit more, they're waiting to get a little bit tanked just so that they can go through it. And they can be boisterous and loud. But the way we set it up is we want to give everybody an opportunity to work their material and get great at what they do without having to worry about, the crowd's going to be tanked anyway, so whatever I throw out there, I'm hoping to, work that. It's like we want to hone in the craft of stand-up. And that's why it's like everybody's going to be sober and everybody's going to judge, yes or no. And it's like, it's either yes or no. You're going to get 50-50, or you're going to get 60-40. It depends on the night. We've had our share of nights here where you got one Friday night, everybody's popping, ready to have fun. And then a Saturday, they're like, I don't want to laugh right now. You're at a club. What do you mean you don't want to laugh? So those are those times you have to work your material and learn how to adjust. So it's good to know that you have that ability now to be able to take that and hone it at a club without having to worry about, well, can I say this Bible? Or do I have to bring in message with this? Like, no, you don't have to bring a message. Just be funny. Just give everybody an opportunity to be entertained.
One of the things that I'll just say is that in the church crowd, I got used to keeping words coming. Like knowing that the laughter kind of dies quickly. You just got to keep it coming, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll go to the club and I'll try to talk over the laughter because they're laughing more because they came to a club. Because a lot of the places I went, I was on the list of things going on that day, but that's not why they came there. You know what I mean? And so I had to win them over and really work hard. And at a club, they're going, please, I'm here to laugh, and learning to pause for laughter has also been, they were laughing before, but they didn't like Dennis said, they didn't laugh a really long time because they're like, that's disrespectful. I'm at church. I need to be quiet.
Right.
And so it's not disrespectful to me if you keep laughing. So
exactly. Please keep going because that's exactly what we need.
So Hoss, let me ask you this. When we know that you're a minister, Steve, talked about that. And you probably have goals in terms of what you'd like to accomplish in the ministry part of your world. But when it comes to the comedy, what are your comedy goals? What are you hoping to see become maybe a pinnacle event for you? What's on the agenda for Hoss Ridgeway?
I think, obviously I still want to be in ministry and I don't want to change that. I want to be full-time ministry and do comedy on, the Fridays and Saturdays and things like that. But I do have a goal of like a bigger presence on the internet, a bigger presence on media, some kind of TV exposure, some kind of radio, Sirius satellite radio is one of my bucket lists to get on there, things like that. And I know that for a while I was afraid of those goals because I was afraid I would get too busy. And some people are like, what do you mean too busy? You need to, this is a comedy, but I want to have a balance, and especially, when you're raising a child, I didn't want to be the guy that was never at anything,
Yeah.
And so my daughter graduates after this year. And so I feel like next year, obviously 2020 is nobody's year, but 2021 may be a great time to be focused on, getting some of those things launched and then being able to travel on Friday and Saturday again. And my daughter not feel like I'm missing her growing
Right.
up, and I feel like I'm not missing her growing up, but I guess my goals are media exposure and bigger presence online, with that, and then getting into other clubs. I'd like to open for some big names and get out there and show people that, what I have to offer is good, and that nobody's going to be like, oh, that was terrible. Because I have a set that I believe in and that gets the laughters that I'm looking for, and then also big goal. It's not a accomplishment goal, but I want to weed out what's not good in my show. And if I can't use 2 bits together by themselves in a 5-minute set that don't work, I don't want to do them anymore. I'm trying to get just the good stuff, because I did a show for friends at a youth ministry conference, and it was 2 hours long, and we laughed the whole time. And I'm like, oh, I have 2 hours of material, but if I get down to it, some of those things only work after I made them laugh at something else.
Yeah.
And I don't think I want to make sure that everything that I have is solid.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I will tell you, if what you're looking for is media attention, TV time, as a minister, if you just kill a few people, you'll get plenty of TV time.
No.
In fact, if you do it during your sermon,
Well,
you'll probably get even more TV time.
Be well known around the world, but not in a good way.
Well, you'll get plenty of time. That's all I'm saying.
He's the one that
I
can't
don't know.
yell.
And let's just be honest. If you're going to do that, please don't wear a Gutty shirt.
No,
Right.
we don't want any affiliation.
Negative ghostwriter. Yeah.
No, it's good, man. That's exactly where, at least we're all in that pretty much that same journey where we got to take and find that balance of even like business and comedy. How do I take my business as a comedian, because it is a business, and get everything that I need to make sure that I'm ahead of the game in front of everybody? Because obviously right now we are in this pandemic. And so that's a whole nother thing that has hit every single comic and club and entertainment center. And it's like causing everybody to have to shift and become more like just innovative. And okay, now there's more online mics than I've ever seen in my life, because now that opportunity has presented itself. And so you have to be ready and pliable to be able to bend any way that you can, especially in this business, because of the fact that we rely on people coming to see us live. And so you have to be ready, to do what you do best, whether it's in front of people in a car, on a stage outside, or online, Zoom, and all that stuff. So you really gotta get just ready for that in all aspects of it. It's not just going up and telling jokes.
Right.
Yeah, I can remember it wasn't too long ago. I saw a couple of comics. They were like, "Hey, we're going to do this open mic online." It was before the pandemic and all that.
Yeah.
And because they knew all these young comics from all over the country, and they were like, "We don't have any open mics near us. Well, we're going to do one online." And I was like, "That is never going to work. That's just what? Wait a minute, a pandemic? What? We can't do what?" Okay, I guess maybe those online mics are going to work. Who knew? So I guess it's proof that I might have a lot of experience and a lot of things that I know, but when it comes to everything, I don't know everything, just about everything, but not everything, which is why people like Blake should just be told to go sit in the corner, because he's just being mean. He's just being mean. That's all he
Blake's
is.
always
Like, why do
chopping.
you like stuff?
Yeah. So go to bed, Blake.
One of the good things about Gutty's is, and I don't know how all the other clubs work, but the clubs that I've known about were owned by business people who just liked comedy, and they had a business model and they went after it. But Gutty's is run by comedians, people who have been on stage and have worked it, and that's great, because you don't just get, hey, thanks for making people laugh. You get things like, hey, if you do this on your bit, it'll be better. And I think that's what separates Gutty's from a lot of other clubs, I think.
Thanks. Yeah, and that's true. It's because we know what it's like and what it takes, especially when you need a room specifically to work the way it does. Knowing the ambiance and the atmosphere and what works, what doesn't work. How to get everybody together, making sure that the room is a certain way and the mic's right and there's no distractions. It's like there's so many different elements that people overlook, especially business people. They're like, well, we got the money, let's make a club. And it's like you don't know the workings of it. What does it mean to have a successful show in between, and how the people feel, what they're looking at, and being able to vet the comedians. There's so much to just running the room as a room. You really need to know the flow, because then if you understand comedy, you'll know, okay, this comic, he fits here, and he fits well with this comic and this comedian, and this show will work like that. And knowing those little parts, and this, because we're fans of comedy, we love comedy, and we know, what works, and we've done enough shows to understand, okay, this is what it will, this is what it looks like, and it's been really cool to see. When the comics come in, you guys are like, man, this is like, it works. You guys got it right. It's like, because we know we're in your shoes too. We're working just as much as you are too as well. So it's like FUBU, man. It's like knowing these companies that have been in the game, know the game, and now we're providing for those comedians that do the same thing. It's the same thing. It's like we know what it takes to run a fun, successful show, and because we've done it and we've been doing it for a while, it's cool to see the reactions of not just the comics but also the people that are coming through. They're like, wow, this is nice. So we're doing something right, and so because we're doing something right, we're doing it right. We have comics like yourself who just come on in, and it's like, man, this feels like home, and that's how we want to make it feel for everybody else that comes through. So
Haas, if somebody's looking to learn more about Haas Ridgeway's comedy, maybe they want to see some of your merch, maybe they want to buy some DVDs or whatever, how do they find you? Where do they find you?
HaasRidgeway.com, and that's pretty simple. And you can also find me on Facebook. There's a lot of information there as well. And I've been trying to work my Haas Ridgeway page, and then of course I started a podcast called The Haasage, which is more Bible, but I'm starting to invite people to be a part of that, and we're going to talk about some serious stuff this week with a friend of mine from college. We're going to talk about race and unity and what that looks like, and how we had that back in the 90s as friends and in a pretty difficult place, and we're going to talk about those kind of things. And so go to HaasRidgeway.com. I got shirts you can buy there, DVDs you can buy there. I probably have like 7 shirts because I took the merch advice pretty seriously. So I have a lot of different things. And so that's what you can do.
And so if people come to the show this weekend, they can get merch there. I'm sure that Haas is going to be stacking everything in here. Well, that's probably because he keeps all of his merch in our storeroom back here. I don't know, but
if you've seen my garage, you know why it's at your place, right? Okay. I can take
it's all good. It's all good, man.
So what's next then for Haas? What's the next thing on the big thing coming down the pike for Haas?
Well, I get to warm up the crowd for the Mike Huckabee show down in Nashville, December 11th, and I'm really excited about that. And that's going to get me some more good video. And the dream there is that the producer says, he's really good. We should have him on the show. He would be a guy that you would, that Mike would enjoy interviewing. That's what and that would hopefully be a nice, propelling me in a good direction. And I know, but it's also like scary a little bit because you're thinking, okay, that's also a very conservative political show as well. And that, I don't do any political humor hardly at all. I mean, I try not to anyway, because I think that my job as a comedian is to get your mind off of all the garbage that we have in the world, not to try to remind you of all the pain that we have. The jester, the court jester, was the guy who could, during the most difficult time, say anything he wanted in the room with the king to relieve the pressure of all the things that are going on. And that's what I want to do. And so I don't make fun of my audience very much. I may make fun of their answer, but not them personally.
Sure. Yeah.
But I make fun of me most of the time. So.
Well, I do too. So I make fun of you as much as I possibly can.
I knew what you meant. That's why I said right. So it's like having my 3 brothers in town, but only 2 of them, the worst ones. I'm just kidding. Awesome.
At least I'm family. That's all I am. Hey.
It is what it is. All right, guys. So if you have not yet gotten your tickets, you better get your tickets. They will sell out here at Gutty's Comedy Club this weekend. Hoss Ridgeway will be headlining. Emmanuel T will be featuring another great comedian that's been here with us too as well. And you're not gonna regret the show.
You won't regret it for whatever you do. You're just gonna come and have a good time.
I'm hunting rabbits. Okay, so make sure you download the Gutty's Comedy Club app. Get your tickets too as well. You can watch them live. I know Hoss has peoples all over the place, so they should be jumping on online too as well. Check them out. You guys don't want to miss it. It's gonna be an awesome show. No doubt about it. So thanks again, Hoss, for joining us on the Pops and Rican show, man. We appreciate you. Can't wait for this weekend, man. Have a good one.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, you got it. There he is. All right, man.
So it's thanks, bro. And then he's still there. I'm like, what? Wait a minute. I thought he was supposed to go.
Still like that, bro. You didn't know that. You didn't know that.
It's magic. Ooh. Yeah. Well, no, it's gonna be a fun weekend.
I agree, man. No doubt about it. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be always just something that you'll definitely not be disappointed at all. You're gonna have a great time. Make sure you get everybody to come out, hang with you. Here at Gutty's Comedy Club. Again, it's limited seating, so you don't want to miss that, an opportunity to be able to do that. So jump online, get your tickets online, download the mobile app, hang out with us. Not only that, this weekend too as well. I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on at Gutty's, but we definitely wanted to highlight the fact that Hoss will be headlining here at Gutty's Comedy Club. And we got Comedy Wars happening too as well. So, I mean, Gutty's got stuff going on throughout the week. So if you're interested, you want to roll through. Tuesday nights is our improv nights. If you want to come and check out what we got going on there too, you can. Just know that, we want to bring that comedy to you, even though things are kind of scary and silly that's happening out right now. You definitely want a place to be able to just be free and be able to be loose and fun and just have a good time. So we definitely will bring that comedy to you. Just make sure that you jump online, follow us online, and download the mobile app so that way you know what's going on. Stay tuned because there's a lot of great stuff going on. But right now, this week, you don't want to miss Hoss Ridgeway.
Hey, I do want to real quick. I want to mention the fact that we do have an event coming up on the 22nd of September, which is a Comedy for a Cause event where we have here at Gutty's Comedy Club. We don't want to just say, "Hey, come here, spend your money with us," although we want you to do that. But we also want to give back to the community and do things for great causes that we believe in. And we are doing a fundraising friend raiser event for Johnson County Senior Services, and that event is already on. The tickets are being sold and that, but we made the commitment that 100% of ticket sales that night are going to be going to Johnson County Senior Services, and they do some really great things for our senior population. And the fact that I'm inching closer and closer to that senior population it's becoming something important to me. So no, but really, again, because of limited seating, we want to raise as much money as we can, but we're kind of limited to the number of tickets we can sell. So we do definitely want to sell that show out so we can give them the most money as we possibly can to help them, because they have some fantastic programs and resources that they provide for seniors. They're also in the middle of a building campaign because they're building a new facility, because the last facility, the one that they were in and they've had to move out of, it was literally disintegrating and falling apart, and it wasn't safe for people to go into. And so they're building a new place, and it's going to be a great place for seniors for Johnson County, which is the county that Gutty's is in. We're in Greenwood. They're going to be that place is actually going to be in I think it's in Whiteland, which is the next little town down from us. But it's going to be something well worthwhile, and we need people to come out and be supportive of that. And I wanted to make sure to mention it here so that we start getting the word out about that event, and we get that one sold out for it. And that's going to be a little bit of stand-up comedy. We're going to have some of the improv crew in to do a couple of improv games and some sketch stuff that night. So it's going to be a fun night to raise some money for Johnson County Senior Services.
I love it, man. I love reaching out to the community, connecting with them too as well, and just bringing the funny, man. Let's just keep doing it. Let's keep comedy alive. So again, thank you so much for watching us. We appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you here at Gutty. So make it a Gutty night. Come out to Gutty's Comedy Club and hang out with us. We'd love to see you. So
get your Gutty on. Come on.
He's Pops.
And he's the Rican.
This has been the Pops and the Rican Show. Deuces.
Deuces.
Pops and the Rican.
Pops and the Rican.
Look at this. Pops and the Rican. The Pops and the Rican. What's the Pops and the Rican? Look at the top of his head. Pops and the Rican.